So I'd welcome you all to our February Network Café, which is envisioning the future of school and campus food, featuring the New England Food Vision Prize and the Henry P. Kendall Foundation, which is super exciting. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Colleen Jennings, and I'm the communications coordinator for the New Hampshire Food Alliance. As I said, we're starting with introductions. So you're introducing yourselves in the chat, and I'm going to share a little bit about what we do here at the New Hampshire Food Alliance. So what is the New Hampshire Food Alliance? We are a network of people, businesses, organizations, and communities working together to build a food system that works for all in New Hampshire. And so what that means, kind of in layman's terms, is all these organizations that you see on this slide and many, many more, over 200 of them, we all work together across different parts of the food system in different areas, different focus areas, and topics to move our collective work forward. So we're all working towards as I said, a food system that works for everybody, and everyone's kind of doing it in a different way. And our job at the Food Alliance is to coordinate that work better so we can do more together. Part of that work is our Network Café series. So it's hosting opportunities like this for us to come together and learn about topics that are critical to our food system and kind of affecting it at the current moment. We host these network cafes on the first Friday of every month, September through April, and they're designed as a space for everyone. They're inclusive opportunities for learning and growing, and our food systems work together. So we do all of this work here at the New Hampshire Food Alliance as a community outreach program of the Sustainability Institute at UNH. One thing I forgot to mention, if you are interested in or curious about what's expected of you and what you can expect from us during this time together, please take a look at our agenda and review the working agreement that we have in there. So that'll give you a good idea of what we're all kind of planning to do here today. But as part of UNH, we share the university's dedication to diversity, equity, access, and inclusion. And we believe that it's important, especially during these gatherings, to acknowledge that, as these things are 4 tenets of the foundational mission of the university, and ensuring that we embrace all the characteristics of our community members that make them uniquely themselves. So one way we do that is during gatherings like this is sharing a bit from the UNH Land, Water, and Life Acknowledgement, which I'm going to do a little bit of that now. As we all journey on the trail of life, we wish to acknowledge the spiritual and physical connection the Pennacook, Abenaki, and Wabanaki peoples have maintained to Indakina, homeland, which the University of New Hampshire community is honored to steward today. We also acknowledge the hardships they continue to endure after the loss of unceded homelands and champion our responsibility to foster relationships and opportunities that strengthen the well-being of the Indigenous people who carry forward the traditions of their ancestors. So thank you all for joining me in that acknowledgement. I'm going to turn us to our topic for today, which is really, really lucky to have Beth Zschau, the program officer at the Henry P. Kendall Foundation, here with us today. She's going to be sharing about the annual grant program that the foundation puts forth, which is called the New England Food Vision Prize. I'm going to let Beth get into all the details. She's got a lot of really great information to share with you all. And I'm really hoping it will inspire some great discussion and some brainstorming later on. But our goal for today really is to do a deep dive into the Food Vision Prize and take advantage of the potential that we have to connect our farmers and our fishermen to our schools and colleges and institutions across the state. There's a lot of opportunity there, and this prize is kind of a flexible and unique way to take a hold of that opportunity and fund some really innovative ideas. So I hope that you all do that and we can get some more applications and proposals in from New Hampshire this year. So Beth, take it away.
All right. Can you hear me okay? Great. All right. Thank you. Excited to be here. I have you all, so many folks, I can't see you all, but again, my name is Beth Zschau. I use she, her pronouns and am with the Henry P. Kendall Foundation. And I see my colleague Holly Hanaway, our program associate, is here as well. So she may be chiming in to help answer questions and go through some information with you. But Like Colleen said, we really just want, I think the goal of today is to make sure that you know about this opportunity. And Nicole and Colleen are so proactive. They have us sharing this information early. If you go to our website, you're not going to see our timelines for the 2025 prize just yet, because you're all ahead of the game. You're getting your ideas going. And then on April 7th, you'll be able to find all the information there. So we just want to, give you a preview and get your ideas going to think about eligible applicants, as well as ideas that really fit the criteria of the prize and what works for New Hampshire. So, all right, let's get into the slides. So Colleen, you can go to the next one here. Very quick agenda. We'll talk through the purpose of the prize, eligibility, and then the process, how you submit letters of interest, how they're reviewed. We really want to try to focus time on examples and answer your questions before you get into some brainstorming. And I have to admit, I'm probably going to be talking pretty quickly because we want to leave time for the brainstorming. So I'm going to try to fly through these slides. And again, all this info will be on our website, so you can look through it again as it gets published in early April. But all right, so the New England Food Vision Prize, it is our open invitation for educational institutions, so schools, colleges, universities, and their partners, all their food system partners, to really think boldly about school nutrition programs and encourage innovation. So those ideas and those, things that you've always hoped to happen in your school food programs, connecting them with local farmers and fishers and producers. How can we as a philanthropic organization really seed those ideas and give folks the flexibility and the financial resources to try new things, try to break through some of the really difficult barriers for schools to procure more local food and educate kids about where their food comes from. So this is the one, big program that we run every year that is just open invitation, and any, teams in New England are eligible to apply, and we'll get into that a little bit more. Since we started the prize in 2018, we have reached, I think, 650 schools and over 300,000 students. And I think the Kendall Foundation has always really focused on schools as a way to, it's kind of a contained unit of incredible people with incredible vision, reaching 3 million young people across the region here in New England. And they also spend $3 billion a year on food and beverage. So they are a huge, market power to drive local food system development. And so I know Nicole and team have shared the 30 by 30 vision with you. I won't go down that path too much, but we really see schools as a real driver in the vision to produce and consume 30% of our food here in the region by 2030. All right, let's keep going. Okay. So the New England Food Vision Prize, the awards you can apply from anywhere between $25,000 up to $200,000. And they can be a term of 1 year or 2 years, you decide. And we, through the process, we don't award partial awards. So if you say, in order to do this project, we need $150,000 over 2 years, if that prize project wins, you would get the full budget that you requested. We don't do partial awards. So we just want to make that clear. So as you're thinking about ideas and what they might cost, we really encourage you to think about the full scope of them. And that is what you would be awarded if you are to win the prize. We have typically awarded between anywhere from 5 to 9 prizes per year. And there have been over 30, I think it's 35 prizes over our history, and over $6 million awarded to those prize winners. And we have recently done a new 5-year plan. Many of you will be getting if you sign, Holly would want me to say, sign up for our emails. We only send a few a year. One of them is the announcement of the prize, so you'll definitely want that. And we obviously announce the prize winners, but we'll be sharing our new 5-year plan as well in the next week or so. So you can go right on our website. Holly might drop that link in for you in a minute, and make sure you're on our email list. All right, let's keep going. What's next? So the way it works is an important criterion is that it is a collaborative project, and so there are teams apply, but there is always one primary applicant. That primary applicant must be able to receive funds from a foundation. So that means you are likely a 501c3, a government entity, so K through 12 schools, colleges and universities, nonprofit organizations, municipalities. That would be the primary applicant. You pick one on your project team that will act as the primary applicant, and they are responsible for, if you win, they are responsible for receiving the funds, distributing funds amongst partners. They're really kind of the project manager. If you won last year, you cannot be the primary applicant again in the coming year. So my friends Nicole and Stacy, New Hampshire Food Alliance and Farm to School, looking at you here, but you can be a partner in another prize. So you can't be the primary applicant, but you can certainly be a project partner in the next round. All right, let's keep going. Oh, one thing I should say about the primary applicant is you do need to be based in New England. And make sure that, this is a New England focused prize. We are a New England focused foundation. It is not to say there can never be a partner from outside New England, but we do have some eligibility around that. We really want the funds and all of it really centered here in our region. This is just about who else can be part of your team. We want to give you ideas because sometimes we've seen over the years where we've gone really, like, it used to be a lot of, it was higher ed for the first 2 years, then we invited K through 12 districts, but it tended to skew more towards nonprofits. And then we want to make sure our for-profit businesses are involved in this as well. And, whether it's state agencies or city departments, those are all really important players in our local food systems and in support of schools. So I want you to think broadly about, who is kind of eligible to be a partner, or who you might want to invite as partners in this work. So, everything from extension services, processors, food hubs, aggregators. We've had a lot of distributors be part of prizes. Food service management companies have been important partners. So really think broadly about who might be able to be a partner in this work. All righty. All right, let's see. Oh, I did not say something really important. Critical and required is that at least one school, whether it's higher ed or K-12, be part of your project team. This whole prize is really about getting more food, regionally produced food, onto trays, in dining programs and in K through 12 cafeterias. So you have to have a school partner, at least one. Sometimes it's many, that's up to you, but you have to have an educational partner as part of your prize. I already said this thing about 1 to 2 years. You can choose the term. And you can use the funding for all kinds of things. We've seen some really great ideas, but it can be staff positions or support for staff positions. You can think about gap certification or, certifications and audit processes that are expensive, but allow you to sell to food service management companies. Equipment, we've supported, tilts, skillets, and coolers, and delivery vans, professional development, stipends for focus groups, things like that. So it's really open in terms of how you can use the funding. The one thing I will tell you is that we do not, you cannot purchase food. So say a school said, we really want to add more local potatoes to our menus, and you build a budget around, you need I'm just making this up, but you need a peeler and a shredder and, some sort of piece of equipment to help cook the potatoes. You need a cooler to store the potatoes, etc. That's all great. You cannot add that you are going, into your budget to buy, 2,000 pounds of potatoes every year. That is not a sustainable, there's not a sustainable source of funds for you to continue to buy those potatoes if you're using philanthropic funds. So just know that you can't buy the food, but you can buy all the, accoutrements to make it possible that you are actually serving more of that local food. Let me just make sure I'm not forgetting anything. In the letter of interest stage, you're not submitting a budget. So you don't have to break this all down by May 30th, but you really want to be thinking about how you would use those funds. You do need to state generally in your letter of interest how funds would be used. All right, Nicole, do we have any questions in the chat that I should pause and answer?
We do not yet,
Okay.
but I will add, if you don't mind me, just one clarification that
Yeah.
one of my favorite things about the way the Kendall Foundation runs the Food Vision Prize is the letter of interest structure, where I don't know, I might have missed it when you said it, Beth, but they do it, the initial call is for a pretty simple letter of interest, and then top selections are picked from there, and then you do the work of sort of fleshing it out. But if you have an idea and you have partners that are interested in that idea and you can concisely articulate it, that is the majority of the work you need to do to put forth the letter of interest. And I think that that's as someone who does fundraising for the New Hampshire Food Alliance, it's just a really realistic bar to think through a project and then put something forth and understand if it's a priority or something that is a good fit before you invest a lot of time into it. So I just want to add that for all those listening.
Yeah, that's great. And there is quite a bit of time between, the letter of interest and the full proposal if you're invited for a full proposal stage. So there is time, we want more ideas. Put the ideas out there in the letter of interest phase. It's definitely worth, throwing it out there. And we also have, and I'll get into it, some ways that you can, get advice on your project idea to make sure it's, both you're meeting eligibility, but also it's a strong fit for the criterion.
And we have one question that maybe you could answer as you go through the next slides. And it's about early childhood education.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say we just had this discussion because, things like even after school programs, they can be an extension of the school day. And we were talking about whether they were eligible. What I would say is if in terms of, the goals of this prize, it is to reach a lot of students and schools and a place where kids eat every day. So if this, early childhood center or education program is associated with a K through 12 school, I think that fits. I think what we don't necessarily want to do is like every Friday there's an afternoon program that takes place, for the elementary school, and they serve a snack, on Fridays, and that's it. And that to me is not getting at the systemic change and the scalability of school purchasing power. So I know that's not, and I see that is not like a very definitive, explicit answer, but and we can certainly talk more about it, but think about the consistency, the number of children that access meals in that, in that location. And is it part of a meal program, that is maybe like, is it associated with a school lunch, national school lunch funded program? I think that's, there's not a hard line, but I'm happy to talk about that more with you. And we'll try to address that in our FAQ that we build for April. All right, great. All right, I'm going to go through these really fast because I want to make sure we leave time for examples. But the way that the letters of interest as well as the full proposals are reviewed and scored or assessed are these criteria here. So measurable impact, collaborative, equitable, and sustainable. And so why don't we move ahead here, Colleen? We'll go to the next one. Perfect. Measurable impact is really about what I keep saying. Will food, more regionally produced food end up on trays for students? That is like the bar you want to be testing your ideas against. And measurable impact is about, what difference will this project make in the, school supply chain work, and who will benefit as a result? So you might have, think about some examples from the past. One of the prizes said, over 24 months, it is estimated that 12,000 pounds of surplus food will be processed, frozen, and sold to schools. That is clear, measurable impact. Another one was, in year 1, 4 new Harvest of the Month recipes will be developed and tested in 4 schools, serving 2,600 students. So very clear what the impact of this project will be. So that's the kind of thing that you should be thinking about with measurable impact. You can go to the next one. Collaborative. So the spirit of the prize, like I've said, it's really about regional food. It's about new ideas and solutions, and it is about relationship building. So collaborative projects. Who is involved in this? What are their roles? And why do they as a partner kind of add value to the measurable impact that you're aiming for? We understand in the letter of interest phase, you might not have this completely dialed in and know exactly who your project partners will be. Some might drop out, you might add others, that's okay. But just really explain in the letter of interest, who you're thinking about, who you've talked to, who's made a commitment to be part of this project if it moves forward. So it's okay if that is still in development. And one other note that we're adding this year, we've had quite a few prizes that just one partner receives all the funding. And to us, that doesn't meet the spirit of a collaborative project. So we really want to see projects that actually not just have a lot of partners, but where the partners are all receiving some of the financial resources of the prize if awarded. All right, you can go. The next one is equitable. So this is, the project identifies a specific injustice or inequity in the food system and sets clear goals, strategies, and measurable outcomes that address that inequity. At the letter of interest stage, I think you really want to be thinking about, how are you applying equity considerations in the design of this project? Are you, who's going to be involved in the project? Who will benefit from the project? Think all the way from kind of farmers and producers all the way through to the students and the communities that you select to work with, or that are coming up with ideas for this prize. Examples that we've seen before have had, there have been a number with commitments to sourcing a certain percentage of ingredients from farmers of color. It can be something like that. It can be other things. And sustainable is really about, we understand that 2 years of funding is not usually enough to have especially a new idea last forever. That we are realistic about what we, the kind of limitations of 2 years of funding. However, what we want you to think about is, are there financial ways to make this sustainable, not just in terms of finding other philanthropic funds after the fact, but is there revenue generation associated with your project that can help offset long-term costs? Or even culturally, are you thinking about staff training programs, operational procedures that can kind of sustain new ways of working beyond the term of the project or the prize funds? Or even logistically, like that purchase of new equipment, or say distribution capacity or storage capacity, that will last hopefully beyond the term of the prize. And that's how, when you think about sustainability, think about it not just in terms of the financial piece, but the kind of culturally and logistically, how will the ways of working be sustained beyond the term of the prize? All right, we'll keep going. Okay, so here are the dates. We will obviously make these available April 7th is when we'll announce, and that's when letters of interest can start being submitted all the way through May 30th. And then in June, we'll make invitations for full proposals. So like I've said, we will read all of the letters of interest. I don't know what the percentage is, Holly. I wish I had this number, but you know, I would guess, if I had to guess, I would say probably 25% of the letters of interest are invited to be to write full proposals. So we are both, you know, we are selective. If we don't think your letter of interest has a chance of, you know, being a winner, we're not going to put you through the time and effort of writing a proposal, a full proposal. We really want to not waste anyone's time with this project, but we also know that at the letter of interest phase, there's probably still a lot of development of the idea that can happen. So, so we would be inviting full proposals in the end of June. They would be due in early August, and then our awards are made in October. And the full amount, if the, you know, if the prize, if you win the prize, you get the full amount in October, and then you manage it over the term. All right, what's next? Yes, so letters of interest, Nicole touched on this a little bit, but 1 to 2 pages, that is all we are looking for. It should include your, you know, who is the primary applicant and what are the partners that will be involved. You address the criterion that I walked through, and of course there's more information for you once we get this all up. And then how much you're requesting, and the award duration, is it 1 year or 2 years? What is next? Okay. We would like to be transparent about who reviews this and who makes decisions, who these proposals. So with the letters of interest, our staff team reads them all. We all score them. And then any that there is, you know, kind of that aren't unanimous decisions, we have full discussions about, and a decision that is made as a team for that invitation for a full proposal. With the full proposals that we review, we invite usually around 7 to 10 external reviewers from around the region. I can't scroll through, but some of you may have been, there may be some folks. Caitlin Porter was a reviewer 1 year, others I'm sure involved, but we have all kinds of people. They're amazing. Farmers, school nutrition directors, we've had dining directors, we've had you know, food hub managers, we've had all, you know, folks all up and down, you know, through the school supply chain act as reviewers. And then once we put all of our scores together, we send our recommendations to the board for decision making. And I think we're getting there. Okay, we're getting to the really good part here, the examples. So on our website, you can actually go in and click through and read about these. So you can read a summary of the project. But we wanted to just give you a couple examples of different projects that have taken place, or prize winners that have won the prize in the last few. Oh, thank you, Holly. I see that. The University of Vermont, this one just closed, and I circulated the report because I think it is so fun. This was an amazing project. This was NOFA Vermont, and then Vermont Bean Crafters, which is a small business in Vermont that does makes all kinds of products out of regionally grown beans. It was Sodexo, the food service management company that works with the University of Vermont, and then 2 different food hub and food distribution business nonprofit organizations. And their concept was that as small dairy farms in Vermont look for alternative paths to viability, one of the things that has been starting to be tested is transitioning their hay fields to legume crops. And at the same time, University of Vermont has been saying they want more plant-forward menus, and they are trying to reach a goal of 30% of their ingredients coming from regional sources by 2030. So this combination of, you know, looking for new opportunities around viability of these small dairy farms and keeping the farmland viable, while also this demand from a large institution, were a really interesting, you know, overlap. So the team came together Their goal was to increase institutional purchasing of Vermont-grown, pre-cooked, frozen organic beans. And Vermont bean crafters played a big role in selecting farms to pilot the growing of beans, and then they facilitated the kind of processing and then the whole kind of cooking component of the bean products. And they purchased storage bins for the farmers. They purchased processing equipment that can actually be shared and moved around the state to be this whole thing with this optical eye. It's a fascinating story, but there was none of this equipment in all of the region, and so they purchased this sorting equipment so that these beans could be safely sorted and then cooked and sold to Vermont. And just in the 2-year project, UVM's purchasing of these beans, it rose by 300% in the first year and 25% in the second year. And across all buyers, Vermont bean crafters saw 200% growth in the sale of this product. So really neat collaboration where an institutional, in their demand and their kind of commitment to purchase this product had that ripple effect all the way through to farmers who are looking for to grow new and different kinds of crops. So that was one of my favorites. A couple others, University of Maine, they have a commitment to also source 30% local. It really drives interesting projects. So they are going to work with Maine Grains to develop this whole byproduct out of milling and blueberry and seaweed farming. They're going to be developing cereal bars and cereals and different kind of grain products specifically with University of Maine in mind. Similar thing happening with broccoli and the byproducts of broccoli processing. They're going to be Fork Food Lab will be making soup and broccoli tots for the University of Maine. And then there's a few examples in Massachusetts. I love the one that's happening in Lowell. It's called Lowell Eats Local, and they are collaborating with a local nonprofit and Aramark and a few other folks to replace ingredients that they purchase frequently, like lettuce. So can they replace all of their California grown lettuce with a locally grown lettuce? Sort of this one ingredient at a time strategy, while also working with very small local farmers that are growing culturally responsive crops and doing pop-up and taste tests with students using those. So kind of a big product and then smaller scale product, but meeting 2 areas of demand. And then Stacy, we can go to the next one, but Stacy is going to talk a little bit about the Manchester project, that Manchester, New Hampshire, that won last year. This was our first New Hampshire prize. We were very excited. Our board was super excited, and we want to see more. So thank you all for being here, but I'll let Stacy, you talk about the prize that you all won last year.
Oh, great. Thanks, Beth. So we put in a proposal to work with the Manchester, New Hampshire School District, which is our largest school district in the state and the most culturally diverse school district in the state. Dozens of languages are spoken there. Students from all over the world go to school there. So our project has 3 components. We are going to help train their school food service staff in culturally relevant school meals in hopes that we will come up with some new culturally relevant school meals to add to their lunch menus. They are already doing this a little bit. So we want to, increase the knowledge of the school cafeteria staff, increase their skills, and increase the recipes they have available to them that they can put on their lunch menus. Another component is obviously, procuring some local foods for their regular school meals or these other meals. So working with Fresh Start Farms, which is the refugee and immigrant farming program based in Manchester and Dunbarton, working with some other food hubs, and potentially some other farmers in the area. So the Manchester School District has a kind of a small goal right now to buy $30,000 worth of local food, and working with 2 of their school districts to get that food to. And hopefully we'll establish some long-term relationships, so they can increase their purchasing and get the local food into more of their schools. And then the third component is working with students. So these new meals that are being introduced on school lunch menus, they're a student meal ambassador program. So students, there's already a program there where students can get credit through the school food service department towards their graduation. They get some certifications like Serve Safe and other things. They were instrumental in getting a salad bar in some of the schools. So this will be like a similar aligned project, so they'll get credit towards graduation as well as help promote the meals. You know, I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do. It's sort of up to them to decide what they're going to do. Marketing the meals, getting feedback about the meals, that kind of thing, I think. So the school district is getting a sub-award, so they're getting some of our Kendall Food Vision Prize grant that's going directly to the school district to hire a coordinator to help coordinate the student meal ambassadors. It's also going to support some stipends for school district cafeteria staff to attend trainings after their work hours. So this is a 2-year project that we're Farm to School and the Food Alliance are very excited to get going on.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. A couple others on here, and we put the partners just so you can see the variety and diversity of partners that are part of projects, but a number in Maine, there's one in which, so there are some local farmers that are growing hardy greens, and they are partnering with an aquaculture company that does not use its processing facility in the summer. So they're using that equipment in that facility to process these greens that they then freeze and sell to schools for the whole year. So that's a really neat one. And then also in Maine, there's both Maine and Rhode Island both have recent prizes focused on increasing the amount of seafood in schools. And in Maine, they really want to meet both a halal meal requirement, but also thinking about fish as a really healthy protein and to support local fishermen. So trying to build up that market of schools purchasing local seafood. And they have a whole curriculum now that's built around local seafood. They do taste tests. They did a lot of recipe development. And I don't have the statistics, but I know they do on their website. The Gulf of Maine Research Institute has done an incredible job just increasing schools' local sourcing of seafood in these few districts. So another one that's really innovative and a great, great prize. All right, I think we are almost done here, Colleen. You can, yes, moving on. So our website, like we said, early April, you'll be able to find all these details. You can also email us. We check this info@kendall.org email all the time. Please feel free to reach out with questions. And Farm to Institution New England has been a partner to us for a number of years where they offer to hop on the phone with anyone interested in submitting a prize application and really walk through, like I said, that kind of both eligibility, but also how do you develop, you know, what other partners might you think of? Or maybe you have a great group of nonprofits and for-profits that are interested in doing this, but you're looking for a school partner, or you have a school partner that's looking for food, you know, food processors or a local food hub. They are a great matchmaker. And also just advisor on what kind of projects are really strong competitors in this prize program. So, oh, Tanya, you're here. I couldn't see you, but yeah, so Tanya's great. Please, you know, use them as they're just excellent, an excellent resource.
And I'll add, Beth, that
yeah.
that Tanya and the Find team are really great for, especially for eligibility and understanding what's a good fit. If you want help with brainstorming or matchmaking, the Food Alliance team is also happy to play that role. So if you want to talk something out or looking for a partner, we hope to do some of that with our remaining minutes today. But in the months ahead, never hesitate to reach out to Colleen or I. Stacy's leading on a project right now, and we're happy to help. So, but in the
Yes.
meantime, I'll pause and say,
Yeah.
and ask if anyone has questions.
Yes, and let me just say one more thing is you can think cross state too. We've had a number of
Mm-hmm.
prizes that are both cross state or across the region. Making so it does not have to be kind of state specific or hyper local. You can really think about working with partners that are spread throughout the region.
I have a question actually while we're waiting for a few to roll in, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about replication? Are there bonus points for innovation for innovation's sake? Or if we learn about I'll say to the attendees that I've known about the Kendall Food Vision Prize before my time at the New Hampshire Food Alliance, well before it, and I've been a big fan. So I was sad that New Hampshire hasn't received any of these prizes, and really am excited to change that trend. And so as we learn about things happening around us that do fit this criteria well and are creative ways to get more local food into schools and higher ed, like the broccoli soup project, if that's a good fit for the folks of New Hampshire, is it a good application to say, like, we want to learn about and sort of replicate that in our state? Or is that not really what you're looking for?
No, I think it does not have to be new. It can just be a good idea that somebody else has already done, and you want to, start that within New Hampshire or locally. Absolutely, it does not have to be something brand new. That idea was probably brand new, before just a few years ago. So it does not have to be brand new. I think in terms of replicable, why that word comes up is because prizes are not they don't gain points just by being in the biggest district or meeting the biggest urban community. We want to see projects that are taking place in very small rural communities as well. But as you think about, like, if it is a very small reach, that is absolutely still important. But think about, could this be replicated in other small rural communities? Or, that is the piece where replicable plays in. Or if it is in a larger community, is it scalable to reach the other districts around, around that community over time? That's where, like, the replicability and the scalability come in. Or, if it's a good idea that works in one place, there's probably components of it that can be replicated in other places. So how might you share out your learnings, throughout the project, so that other folks that are interested would be able to replicate that? So whether it's presenting what you did at a conference, or creating a handbook, or coming to a network cafe and sharing about the prize, or things like that. We do want these ideas to be shared, and the successes and the challenges to be shared. So that's what we're talking about with replicability.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't see any other ones. Colleen, you see any others?
I don't. If anyone wants to just come off mute or raise their hand and ask a question, or alternatively, if you have an idea that you want to run by Beth and Holly and Tanya too, Tanya's here, that would be great as well. I think this is a great time to just start sharing or brainstorming, and kind of getting things percolating in the brain.
Well, and I want to just put out a call to say, before we think about other ways to use the rest of our time, if you have an idea, even just the inkling, a beginning of an idea, there are 36 other people on this call today that you might be looking for a partner in that idea, or looking for someone that might be a good fit to talk that through with you. This is a good moment to do that. So I'd love to start there. And if not, we'll think about other ways to brainstorm and use the time.
That sounds good. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see everybody. Go ahead, Tanya, and then we'll do Rachel.
I'll go ahead and start with Rachel. I was just going to share a question I sometimes hear from other applicants, so I can do that after Rachel asks hers.
All right.
This is less of a question, more responding to the prompt to share ideas, or what I would probably characterize as like the very beginning seeds of an idea. But I'm happy to share that in case that jogs other ideas. So I work at Dartmouth in the sustainability office, and we have the organic farm at Dartmouth. And of course, our dining services here strive to incorporate local foods, but there's a lot of holdups to that. Mainly processing, I think, is the main one, and lack of labor capacity. And on the flip side, in the Upper Valley area of Vermont and New Hampshire, we are so incredibly fortunate to have a wealth of small scale local farms that are often direct to consumer, but they sometimes struggle placing their products. And I know like the farms I go to for my CSA, for example, like are struggling to sell their CSA shares or to sell to the co-ops all the time. So just because there's so many of them, the market's kind of saturated. So we're starting to think about how might we, like, it seems like we have two problems that could possibly be solved, but what's the best way to do that? I think we're, yeah, in the beginning stages of like problem identification, and then creative solution ideating.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Rachel. And if someone wants to chime in and join Rachel on her ideating about this project, definitely do that.
Rachel, sorry, this is Stephanie. I was wondering, can you elaborate a little bit more on the what struck me about that was something about processing areas or time. Do you want to like delve a little bit more? We're a processing facility where we manufacture kimchis and sauerkrauts, but if she wants to elaborate a little bit more on the processing side, I'm curious to hear.
Well, that sounds awesome, and would love to chat with you, Stephanie. Sounds like you probably have some lessons for us. But I think the main thing is our dining program, which is really awesome, and it's like Dartmouth specific. We don't outsource to a different like national company, but they are generally pretty strapped as far as like funding. They have to be profitable, so they don't get like subsidies from Dartmouth to, you know, for example, like go out of their way and buy local food. And we all know like the cost of food is rising, and a main challenge that we faced here at Dartmouth is it's actually like housing affordability and the ways that that impacts labor. And so for folks who are, you know, being paid maybe even like $25 an hour to work in our dining halls, that's like often not enough to have a house that's within 30 minutes of Dartmouth. And so even if our dining staff wanted to hire people to, for example, like chop squash that came straight off a farm, or chop onions, or wash greens, or whatever it might be, and you know, they would need the equipment to do that, and on and on. There's just this sort of like labor gap as well. So
Totally
yeah, I think
here. Yeah.
oh yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Nicole. You want to?
Nope, I was just gonna call on Sarah Cox, and then Sarah Cox. Why don't you hop in?
Thank you. I'm seeing if, should I be able to pop on so you can, oh, there I am. Hi, everybody. So same thing, just wanted to put forward sort of why I'm here in terms of ideas, and if anybody wants to jump in on what ours is. So
And Sarah, sorry, will you just say for Beth's benefit who you are and others?
Sure. I can do that. So I'm Sarah Cox. I'm a farmer in southern New Hampshire, Tuckaway Farm. We are a diversified organic vegetable, fruit, and grain farm. And I am also working on a lot of work over the last 10 years, really, but specifically since about 2021 on developing collaborative grain projects in the state to have more locally grown New Hampshire, part of a New England system, but really how to get the infrastructure for high quality food grade grains in the state, and specifically for this project into the school system. You know, it's a staple food. It's part of so much of what we eat, and we all know that the nutritional value of flour, the way it's produced as a commodity, is not great for any of our bodies. And local grains can, and the way they're milled, can really address some of those issues. There are tons and tons of gaps in infrastructure still, even though we've been doing a lot of work to address that, to get a really high quality product, and it's everything from storage to processing equipment, harvest equipment. I was thrilled to hear that there's some funding in this that can actually go to those types of things like gravity tables and color sorters, what you were talking about with the beans and main grain, you know, really specific equipment that we haven't been able to get through the grants we've already been looking at. I think including grain in this 30% goal for 2030 would be such an amazing thing in our state. So there's lots and lots more, but that's sort of where I wanted to pipe in to see if there's some potential.
Great.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a great idea. And I definitely, you know, Maine grains and also the Vermont bean project would be good. You know, you can consult with them as well, but that would be excellent to see that.
Yeah,
I
and
think.
what I loved hearing that there was product development for the types of things like cereal bars that can be in the schools. Also that really direct partnerships with maybe some specific school districts where we already collaborate, where we have people who are in those programs. So
Yeah.
I'm
And
up to
Sarah's
talking
right
with
near
anybody.
UNH too. So
Right.
as a, you know, as a buyer, that's another possibility for your project proposal.
Yep. Great, thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Sarah. Tanya, do you want to jump in?
Thanks. Sure. I was just going to share, like, when I've talked to folks in past years, you know, there are a couple of questions that tend to come up, and one is on sort of tracking impact. What are good metrics, suggestions for what they should be collecting information on, how they should report out on that. And just wondering if you wanted to sort of answer like what you've seen as being, you gave some really great examples, Beth, of like how folks are articulating their goals. Could you also just speak a little bit maybe to how you've seen people successfully measure and report out on those things and where they may have challenges, and some advanced planning can help with that?
Yeah. In terms of measurement, I always get a little bit nervous. You know, people are used to these really intense federal grants that require so much measurement and evaluation. And I will say the prize is not meant to be excessively rigorous in that way. It is our measurable impact. The reason we have that in there is to help to encourage or incentivize teams to set goals. I think we really believe that setting goals helps people, you know, stay focused and work to achieve a shared goal. And so we do love to see things like, you know, number of farmers to be engaged in the project, or producers, or, you know, number of pounds of food can be good, but you know, the dollars spent on local or regional food is a good metric. Certainly students reached, but like I said, more is not necessarily better, but like, how are you going to reach those students? Is important. I think, you know, things like, you know, community or family engagement events, you know, things like the number of taste tests or the number of new recipes added. Those are all good metrics that can be incorporated into prizes. And I don't know, Holly, if you or, you know, Tanya, do you have others that come to mind? I think that's what you were looking for, Tanya, right? Just like me to give examples of what kind of metrics you might use.
Yeah, examples and sort of like how you're thinking about that. So I think that was like a great answer. I think that's really helpful.
Okay. Yeah, it can be like relationships too. I mean, one of my favorite things about that Vermont Bean Crafters is just the relationships, and they have a really good video, a YouTube video about the project on the Bean Crafters. I think it's on the Bean Crafters or the NOFA website. And there are relationships that are now going to last far beyond the prize, and just being able to kind of document that and talk about, you know, forward commitments, or, you know, things that are going to last beyond the prize that you're looking for in terms of, you know, what does success look like? Being able to define that in some concrete terms is really helpful.
Awesome. Great. Thank you for asking that, Tanya. I think that helps people visualize kind of where they want to go with a project and how to get there. I think we probably have time for one more question or one more bit of sharing if folks have another project they're having on top of mind.
I'm challenged right now with how to, with our last 5 minutes, use the time, because I see even just the list of who's here. I see Gary with Sodexo here, Nalima, um, let's see, Taproot. Melissa's here with Taproot. There's so many really crucial partners for a successful Food Vision Prize project and for institutional or school sourcing on the call. So I guess in addition to questions, if you have something that would help you think this through and move this forward, that would be really useful for us to hear, so we can try to think about how to support you after 1 o'clock today. Okay, well, I see Stephanie in the chat is saying she'd be interested in being involved in the Sarah conversation. Rachel, where you are, a lot of great partners that we know that you might know or not that we can connect you with. So please don't hesitate to reach out and we can talk that through with you. But last call for questions otherwise.
I will just say some feedback we've received is, starting early really helps, because as soon as school is out of session or you get into May and June, it's harder for our school, folks to be able to engage. So I love that you're starting early. And I will also say, Holly, thank you for pulling those statistics, because we invited 22 of 35 for full proposals. So I was way off in my percentage. That's actually 60%. And then we funded 9 of the 22. So please, it helps to know that the scale of this, you're not putting in a letter of amongst 350 others. It's actually a pretty strong percentage and ratio of projects that get funded for, for who puts in letters of interest. So that's my little plug of like, please do consider this. We'd really love to see more applications from New Hampshire.
Awesome. Thank you, Beth.
Well, I want to thank Beth, and don't leave yet. I just want to say thank you so much for being here and getting this information out early in New Hampshire. And I love all of this action in the chat. Sarah, what did you want to add or ask?
Thanks. I was just, because I recognize some of the names on here and potential partners, and I don't recognize others, I know some people are introducing each other. Is the best thing to do to contact you, Nicole, in terms of who you might think would be good fits, or is there a list of everyone on here with who they actually, what organizations they are, just to have a good sense of who to be talking to amongst us? I just don't know a lot of the names.
I don't know. That's what I'm struggling with. I think that Colleen, will we even have a record of who actually attended today?
Yes, I can pull a record of who's here. Also, Sarah, the chat too. Most people introduce themselves. If you, I will save the chat too and can provide that as well. But yeah, I think we can be great connectors. I think that's a good. I'll have a good idea of who's here, and if you're like, I need someone to do the X, Y, and Z, we can kind of make that connection for you. I think that would.
How about this as a proposal? If you want to host a conversation, if you know that you're interested in pursuing this and you have some semblance of an idea, reach out to me. And then Colleen will help me get a list of who's on this call, and I will email saying, Sarah is hosting a conversation. Here's how if you want to be part of it, let her know. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
So I have Sarah, likely Rachel, and maybe Stephanie. But let me know, Sarah, I'm going to count you in, but anyone else, confirm if you want to be someone that holds a conversation in the future. And anyone else, if you would like to, let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned to hop into, and it can be like, I'm a buyer, but I don't know where to start with this. That can be holding a conversation. So we're going to keep the bar low, and we're here to help. We want to see some great applications for New Hampshire, and I think we can do this.
We can. Melissa, yes, please. I think, the chat is a great place. Laura from Extension offered her services in her partnership. Nalima's thinking about things from her her business. So there's a lot of good things that we can come out of this day with. So I will leave it at that because it is 1 o'clock. I have some last minute reminders in the chat. Please take our Network Cafe evaluation. Our next Network Cafe, a really exciting one, all about housing and protecting land, that intersection of that issue. So that'll be a big one. Definitely join us for that in March. And then the strategic plan, New Hampshire Food and Agriculture Strategic Plan, is launching next month. So be prepared to get that to your inboxes. I'm nervous just saying, I saw Nicole's face too, but it's going to be great. Thank you all for being here. And again, thank you, Beth and Holly and the whole team at the Kendall Foundation for hosting this with us.
And for running this incredible, impactful program over the years. I just love how it's structured. I love what it's getting at and the flexibility of it. And I'm just so grateful to you all for this investment in New England's food system.
Awesome. Yes, we'll keep an eye out for our new 5-year plan coming out next week too, for other opportunities. So thank you all so much.
Thanks everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye.